Hey everybody, morning.
Oh wait, we're on. Oh wait a second. Let me put my pants on. Hey everybody, it's that time again of the week, which is not the time of the week. That's anyway. It's the new time of the week for that time of the week that we have the AMA once a week. Did I get that right, Joe? Does that make sense? It just makes
Made
it's
sense
a little
enough.
loopy in my head.
Yeah, we moved everything to Thursdays now. That's going to be the new format. Some people, based on time zones, they wanted it to be available on Friday. So we made some changes, and hopefully we get things out to where people can catch the update before the weekend.
Yeah, it was actually mostly me. I was just saying that. Look. Like Fridays, because I would have to do this on Fridays at 10 p.m. And I was just saying, look, Fridays at 10 p.m. I should not be sober. I should not be sober that late on Friday. Okay. And I had to be sober.
Thanks for taking one for the team, Dan. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I know. Well, thanks the team for taking one for me now. That's where we're at right now. Thanks, team, for allowing me to get back to my regular vices and regular scheduled programs of Friday nights. I got some bottles over there that need to be emptied. Okay, I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. No, I don't have a drinking problem. Okay, well, Joe is like, okay, how can I fast forward Dan? Is there a DAP and Ergo to fast forward Dan? Can we just like skip through all this bullshit? Well, let's skip through the bullshit. All right. So for this week, there's been a few things that have happened. We've been working with the Catalyst team, trying to figure out, different verticals of what we can do together. We're still discussing several different things. We're trying to see if maybe Catalyst Natives is the right program for Ergo to join. Essentially, I think that really natives, we should be able to find, or I hope that we can find vertical to be a part of Catalyst, just because so many synergies behind our two communities, I think there's could be a lot of pathways into some sort of like cross-chain development that can be then funded by the community. A lot of really interesting verticals. So we're really working on that, Joe and I. Aside from that, there's also been some work done on reaching out to other funding options, which basically we're trying to bring in capital into the ecosystem without really, bringing in the VCs into the ecosystem. We want it to be organic. So that takes finesse. We're making sure that the Ergo, the spirit of Ergo still stays, right? We don't want to bring a bunch of capital and then it's going to be tied to a bunch of VCs that are going to have realistic expectations and then kind of, sour the water. Sour the milk? What's the expression, Joe? Poop in the water? Whatever.
It's too early for me to figure out expressions.
Yeah. It's like late for me. It's early for Joe. We can never get it right. We should just do this whole thing like like China does. They just have like one time zone across the entire country. We should do that. Everything should be on Japan time. So aside from the ecosystem funding, we've also been obviously, as we've been in the past several weeks and several months, working on integrating with our tier one exchange. It's coming along. Just like with everything, it's a process, but active work is being done. So again, I'm not gonna humor you with any more tentative timelines. I think we are. What do you think, Joe? I think we should be pretty close, right? Because of the answers, the questions we're getting from the team, it seems like it's pretty close to being done. The entire core team is involved too. Everybody's helping out. Alex, everybody else. MSA, HMS. I want to say HMS Sam, like HMS Pinafore, but it's MHS, right?
Yeah, it's MHS.
Yeah, MHS Sam. The Ergo Dex team. I mean, everybody's really trying to help out. So I really think that in the end, it's going to be a really good thing for the ecosystem. I know it's a process. I know we've been waiting for a while, but it will happen, guys. It will happen. It's being worked on right now. It will happen. We just ask for your patience on that. Once again, I'm asking for your patience and waiting for us to integrate with it. Anyway, we're not gonna get into that. And so aside from that, there have been several, I guess you could say, operational things that we've been working on. I am also working on setting up the NFT drop for the for people who joined the meetup in Austin. We will be doing that really shortly. I also would like to set up the raffle for the Ergo merch that we got in Austin. Again, that's, I'd like to utilize some Ergo tools for that as well. So that is going to be happening in the next couple of weeks. And we will let you guys know as far as, NFTs. We will notify the people who have registered for the meetup in time. And we will be getting your wallet addresses to where you would like the NFT sent to, and then we'll do the drop. That is it from my end. What about you, Joe?
Well, one nice thing about having the AMA on Thursday is we just had the developer update yesterday. So there's a lot of fresh updates, news from the ecosystem. I would say probably the 4 biggest, maybe 5, actually. I'm going to say 5. First, 5.0 testnet is live. In some cases, we're expecting to see about a 10-time improvement in script processing. I think the ErgoPad team is definitely going to see some performance improvements, and they're going to start playing around with the testnet soon. GitBlock has really progressed on their research in terms of plasma scaling. And I believe Cheese Enthusiast said that they saw about a 30-time improvement of miner payout, which is pretty massive. We also had an update. Mr. Stauffager is working on a mosaic build, which will actually allow for simple dApp interfaces inside of wallets. So, it will definitely simplify the user experience in terms of interacting with applications across the ecosystem. That's quite exciting to see. I like to call it green buttoning everything, where you take the complexity of use and you try to make it so simple your grandmother could use it. I think that what he's putting together is definitely a step in the right direction there. We also have seen a lot of developers, across wallets actually starting to push the implementation of Babel fees, which has actually been on kind of the GitHub for about, I'm going to say 6 months, but with EIP 27 and kind of the engineering that had to go behind that, some of the PRs from the ecosystem, kind of got backburnered a little bit, and so that's one that really could significantly improve user experience and also potentially open up some really neat new features on the Ergo blockchain. And then the last one is Ergo Auth, which I believe is still under discussion, but having the ability to have greater security between wallets and dApps is also a really nice development to watch and track. So I'm quite excited with what the ecosystem is putting together.
Yeah, actually, you just reminded me. So Joe and I did a really good space, Twitter space. I believe was it yesterday, Joe? It was, I think it was yesterday, right? Because all my days are just
I think it was 2 days
one big
ago.
day now.
Yeah, for me, it was 2 days
Yes.
ago.
Yeah. Okay. Because it was your evening. It was my morning. It was your evening. So for me, it was yesterday morning. For you, it was 2 days ago in the evening. Because you live in the past, Jay. You gotta live in the future like me. We'll get you there. So this space was actually hosted by Cinnamon Bun. I think it's called Real Talk. And it was a really good space. We, discussed Cardano, answered a lot of really good questions. I think it was originally supposed to go for something like a half hour, and it ended up going for, I think, like an hour and a half, right, Joe? I mean, we were there for a while.
I was there for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You were there for a while, like even after everybody just left, you just kind of chilled in the space by yourself. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. Just checking, just checking. So why am I saying this? I recommend you check it out. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you know who Cinnamon Bun is. He's a pretty well known Cardano community guy and influencer, great guy all around. He hosts these spaces, and I believe this was actually his 40th one. So I suggest you guys check it out and get some insights about Ergo, about, well, some things you might not know, some things you might know, but it's always good to have other people be introduced to Ergo. And actually, that really kind of ties into this one question that I saw over here. Let's see. Okay, yeah, there it is. So, let's see. So here's a question from Shut Up Matt. How do we make these videos media reach people outside of Ergo? Well, what Joe and I did, that is one of the main ways you do it. You go out there, you go to other communities. If you want to do it organically, of course, you can go and pay for advertising. You can go and get, and I'm still working on getting us a more cohesive marketing strategy. So something more like a PR marketing strategy. But again, with an ecosystem like Ergo, I believe it is. I mean, look, we got ourselves into this. Okay, we're decentralized, right? We were a fair launch. We're decentralized. We don't have like the guy, right? There isn't the guy. A lot of these ecosystems have like the guy. It's like a Vitalik, or they have a Charles, or I mean, in our ecosystem we have a few guys, but we don't have the guy. So you have to kind of organically introduce people into the ecosystem, which takes longer, but I believe it's a lot more effective to do it versus to kind of just go out there and plaster, Ergo everywhere. And people going to say, like, well, what's Ergo and why should I care? And then we explain why they should care, and they might not care, because it's what we have to offer is a lot of it is nuanced. And that is what makes us special, but that is what also makes us kind of almost married into this organic growth. But I believe that is in the long run, that is going to be our one of our, and it is one of our greatest strengths, because of this organic growth. It grows organically and it stays, right? A lot of this growth stays because in a lot of ecosystems, you got this like huge boom, right? Something happens, somebody dumps a bunch of money into it, people start pumping, people start FOMOing into it, it explodes, it grows inorganically, and then it starts collapsing because it just didn't build up this momentum, the proper momentum to sustain the growth. What we're doing is building up momentum to sustain the growth. So we just need to go out there. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of community people that are engaging right now into just going out there and teaching people about Ergo. That's very great. It's creating content. There's also ways of joining spaces, joining podcasts, all these different places where new people are at, right? and just telling about Ergo. People like myself, people like Joe, people like Alex, people like CW. Other people in the ecosystem can join these spaces, can join these talks where you have other community members from outside, from Cardano, from maybe Algorand, from Ethereum, whatever, and just talk to them. Tell them about Ergo, because every time, and Joe can vouch for this, every time we go out there and we start talking about Ergo to people who don't know about Ergo, we don't get pushback, right? I mean, Joe, we don't really get pushback. People, but it's always like, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah, I think the most important thing to say here with this question is just one word: education. And I think that with Ergo, I really respect Alex and our community for looking at just core principles. Are things open source? That's important. Are the assumptions of it known? That's important. And while they are somewhat basic and foundational, I would say that as the space has developed, things have really shifted away from just the first principles that started cryptocurrencies in general. Now we have, it's closed source, and, you can't see anything, you can't understand your assumptions. And it kind of gets into like the trust me, bro situation, which has hurt a lot of people, So I do think that the simplicity of having an open source community that's looking to solve things in a way that's actually decentralized and has transparent assumptions is refreshing.
Absolutely. I actually have another question here, and I think actually Joe and I have a really, I have a strong opinion about this, and so does Joe, I believe. So this is from Joe's namesake, Joe Halton. And are you secretly hoping that we see backed or POS coins pass the Howey test and are ruled as security? This would leave Ergo sitting pretty. So let's start with this, or would you like to answer this first, Joe? I mean,
I'll go first. So in my opinion, cryptocurrency should be P2P networks, right? And anybody that's trying to call in a third party to gain a market advantage is kind of just lacks principle, in my opinion. Like, that's really not what these systems are about. So I know that there's like Bitcoiners that are like, rah, Gary Gensler, why don't you eliminate our competition so then we can absorb their market cap? That's pretty weak, in my opinion. If you're trying to create P2P networks that empower people to directly transact with each other, why are you calling in the government or referees, right? I think that shows a general lack of principles, and frankly, those type of people shouldn't even be in the space.
Joe, I mean, absolutely. Again, we're in complete agreement. I always say that, don't shit on other projects unless it's a complete scam. Okay, complete scams need to get called out. But look, VC backed, not VC backed, POS chains, blah blah blah. Look, I'm not rooting for anybody to bite the dust, and especially for the government mommy to come in, or whatever you want, a government daddy, government big brother to come in and wipe our behinds for us. We don't need that. Who wants that? I mean, look, it's like opening a Pandora's box, right? So you come in, you have the government come in, and you have these coins, you have these blockchains ruled as security, right? Well, basically, they just eliminated a multi-billion-dollar ecosystem, right? They killed it. What is going to stop them from doing the same thing to you when they stop liking you? Because eventually power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. You're giving them absolute power to kill businesses, to kill ecosystems. Okay. So you're basically kind of like riding a nuclear missile there. I'm going to ride this nuclear missile all the way over to my enemy's whatever, but you're riding on it. You're still going to blow up in the end. It's still everybody's going to go down with the same thing. Yeah, it should be P2P. we should. I mean, look, I'm not one of these guys who's completely against, like, look, just government, stay away from this. I mean, look, yeah, we need some definition, right? Definitions from lawmakers. We want lawmakers to know what they're making these definitions for, right? That's why I want to kind of let them know, explain to them what cryptocurrencies are, what blockchain is, how it works, and so on and so forth. Because a lot of them just don't know, and you want them to create laws that make sense, just like with anything. But what you don't want them to do is come in and play your assassin, because that's going to backfire 100%. So that's all I got to say about that.
I think there are some assumptions you can make about, a project that, has perhaps a seed sale, and you have people that basically got in much earlier. I think that there are definitely assumptions you should make about, perhaps VC backed or certain proof of stake projects. But to call in a referee in a P2P environment, I don't think that's what this industry was really gauged for, is like, let's go to the government and try to regulate each other. Like, that, in my opinion, that's so far away from the first principles of crypto. It's pathetic.
Absolutely. So I'm going to answer this question here about Zengate. So how is Zengate doing? He plans on doing an ErgoPad collaboration. Well, actually, Zengate is doing quite well. In fact, I am right now kind of, we're doing kind of a workshop with my co-founder right now, and we're kind of knocking out a lot of stuff, and we will be doing that for the next few days. And so we have a lot of developments. I'm actually, one of the things that was suggested to me actually by Ergo Whale is that to create regular content, to do AMAs, to do more, just to make more information available. I will start doing that, so that you have more information what's going on. Like I said, there's a lot going on. So Palmyra is being fleshed out right now. We're also working on other verticals as well. What I mentioned before about mining. So yeah, a lot going on, and I will have more information available. The other part of your question is any plans on doing an ErgoPad collaboration? I haven't spoken to Marty and ErgoPad about collaborating, although I would be more than happy. I mean, it would be great if we could collaborate on something. We do need to talk about this, but again, we haven't had the conversation yet. But I do believe that we do have verticals and we do have synergies. So hopefully we can come to a mutual vertical that we can both pursue. So let's see. All right. Hey Joe, you want to grab a question, because you I think you can see the questions as well. You have one
Sure.
in particular you'd like to tackle?
Let's go to the top. I thought that was a good one. It says, wild thought. Could you potentially make a Git block subpool which required your CPU, GPU, I guess I read that backwards, GPU, CPU, to do a percentage of some other algorithm to do, say, cancer folding research, resulting in selling GPU power to buyers? That gets into an interesting topic, useful proof of work. I would say useful proof of work I find interesting, but I'm on the fence about, and I'll tell everyone why. Number one, if you're going to split your hash power, okay, and you're going to try to, in this case, the question is about selling GPU power to buyers, who's going to set the market in a decentralized way? Or is it going to be, because that requires a certain governance aspect, and things get a little bit more complex in terms of, okay, let's say we're going to choose partners. How are we going to choose them? And are we creating an external risk that perhaps that partner no longer is able to pay us? And then, as a result, miners are affected. Now, if it's implemented, let's say directly on miners, and obviously in order to even support something like that, it would have to pass 90% threshold in Ergo. But let's say it did. I would kind of be suspect that we wouldn't have miners out there that would view that as a type of hash rate limitation, and then try to create their own custom mining software to turn off useful proof of work and essentially maximize their hash power. I think that that's always going to be probably the biggest risk, because if the subsidy or selling of GPU power is less than the actual reward from mining, you're going to have that incentive. And one thing I would say is generally true is if miners are going to try to see an economic advantage, they're going to take it, right? And there's a lot of smart miners out there that are more than capable of creating their own custom mining software. You could look at even the hash rate limitation on NVIDIA got broken. Why? Because there's an incentive to break it. And so I think that useful proof of work, while it's a kind of interesting concept, I don't know that it actually is beneficial for security. I think there's definitely like good marketing there, but knowing how miners think, if they see that as a roadblock, they're going to try to remove it. And so I would say that is definitely not something that Ergo would want to be first over the hill on, because first over the hill might be first on the end of the spear.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I have a question here from Irreversal. Dan, can you compare your marketing approach to World Mobile Token, please? So, well, first of all, and again, I already kind of spoke about this, but I'll reiterate a little bit. So with World Mobile, they have specific products that they offer. When you have specific products that you offer as part of like a product suite, for example, what I'm doing with Zengate is a suite of products, several platforms. Then you can target those particular sub brands and create a marketing strategy based on like a style sheet of branding, branding, then expanding the sub brand itself, creating an ecosystem within the sub brand itself. So it's a lot more structured. It can be a lot more structured. With Ergo, because it is this decentralized ecosystem, because there isn't like one entity that you can brand, right? So you can brand Ergo, right? So Ergo is a brand. But World Mobile it's a company, right? It's not just like a decentralized blockchain like Ergo. So it's a more kind of a more decentralized approach because it's a corporation. With Ergo, what you really need to do is you need to, and what I'm attempting to do, and what I'm going to be doing is maintaining that decentralized organic approach. Now, how do you target that? Well, you go there and you kind of look at the thing as a whole, right? And you pick out interesting and fascinating segments from the ecosystem, and then you feature them. And that's, for example, that's what we're doing with Ergo Polls. That is, and we hope to do that more with, we have other people in the space like CW, for example, making content and featuring different people, different players, different influencers within the ecosystem, or featuring different tools, different projects within the ecosystem. it's a longer runway, right? So this kind of marketing approach is a longer runway, but there will be, I guess you could say that there will be a critical mass that is reached when you have enough content out there that people basically start engaging more and more and more and consuming the content. And that's when you're going to get an influx of new people. And like I said, that happens when you go cross chain, you know, when you go into other communities, when you collaborate, when you, when you talk, when you tell people about it. So that's basically how it's different, right? Instead of concentrating on different brands and sub brands, and have brand, having branding strategies, have things like that. It's more the opposite, right? So there's already different brands within the ecosystem that have organically came to be. And I want to grab those brands and I want to feature those brands and I want to create content with those brands. And I want, or like Ergo Prism, another great example, another great content creator. And other content creators in the ecosystem grab these things, create good content out there for this, and just push it out there and put it out there. So that's essentially how they're different and what and what the plan is for Ergo. All right, so let's see. So here's a good one from Augustus Kent, who's actually usually has pretty damn good questions for us. So Augustus says, Kushti mentioned that bull markets are good for bringing in new developers. How can we keep the momentum and ecosystem growth going during a bear market? So why don't you tackle that one, Joe?
Sure. I think that the best two mechanisms that we have as a community to attract new developers is number one, educational tools, documentation, that side. And the other is open source frameworks, right? When you have open source frameworks, you automatically give people the ability to kind of inspect and dissect things that are working. And that also opens the capacity to change them, implement new ideas, have your own unique implementation. I think over time, that open source ethos of the Ergo community is ultimately going to be the most important driver of developer adoption because it gives people the ability to onboard and educate themselves. I do think that as Deco evolves and as the community continues to grow and there's more and more code to review and learn from, that barrier of entry becomes lower and there's simply more to learn from. I know that when you start to see more closed source builds and, kind of code that cannot really be reviewed, that automatically kind of eliminates people from being able to really dive in and understand how things work. So I would say that's already a momentum that we've seen in the last year. And in the future of Ergo, that's something that I hope we continue to maintain as a community, the importance of open source code end to end. And, when you get into UTXO, you actually have a unique setup where you have on-chain code, off-chain code, right? And that's not the case with Ethereum. That's one thing they did really well as a community, but all of the Solidity code is on-chain. So, if we're going to really be open source, we need to be open source end to end, on-chain and off-chain. Ideally is going to be open, reviewable, so developers can come in, learn, and adopt. Ergo script, building on Ergo, that's critical, I would say, for where we are in our development.
Cool. So we got a question here from our friend CW, aka Cecil Wombat, and so that's the name. It's Cecil Wombat Jones. That's what CW stands for. We already went through this. Okay, he's Australian. So CW is asking, is it fair to call closed source builds blockchain services as opposed to dApps? Why is an emphasis on open source code important?
Sure. I'd like to answer that.
I know
Um,
you. CW said you would like to answer that. That's why I'm asking Joe.
so, what is decentralization from a grounded perspective, right? I would say it's when things are localized collectively, to where you have the ability not only to run hardware locally, but you have the ability to host and kind of have custody of the software itself locally. You know, if you were to look at a closed source build as a base layer blockchain, we would probably make fun of it a little bit. You know, if it's not open source, if you don't have the ability to hold and review the software, that is kind of a serious issue because you now have a bottleneck where one entity or organization controls everything. So ideally, in terms of a decentralized application, it's an application where the source code is open and you have the ability to locally run, compute, interact, and you kind of have end-to-end open source freedom with that application. Now, yeah, you do have closed source builds that I do, you know, I know I called them blockchain services. Is that something that I am fully against? No. I think that sometimes the service they offer exists because it's superior to that of what actual decentralized application is offering, which hopefully creates an incentive for that other player to improve. But if you don't have the ability to have custody of the code, it's not decentralized, my opinion. And I think that as we see the space evolve and develop and kind of take on the, let's just call it more corporate business mindset, we'll see a shift away from open source. And ultimately, I think we need to call that what it is. It's a blockchain service, not a DApp.
Right. So here is kind of I guess I don't really like taking questions about price, but there is a question. It's fair, okay. We can try and answer this, okay. So when, not if, ERC price goes to the moon, what is the impact on to EF besides increasing miner profitability? So what do you take on that, Joe? And I also have obviously my own take on this.
Sure. I think we still have a lot to do in terms of improving market access to users, you know, opening up exchange listings and potential partnerships. I also would like to see additional funding for educational initiatives and grants for developers. I think that ultimately the EF, you know, is not necessarily here to lead the ecosystem. We're here to maintain the core components of the ecosystem and encourage education, adoption, and development.
Yeah, and just to kind of elaborate on that, right? So as you know, we had a fair launch. The EF is not a wealthy foundation, but the EF does have a mission. And so, of course, if ERG is worth more, we have more options, right? We have more options to bring in more talent, I would say, for, say, more education initiatives, more ecosystem development initiatives. And like Joe said, I mean, look, for exchanges, as we all know, the bottom line is profitability. I mean, not really anything wrong with that. I mean, it's kind of the cold hard reality of capitalism, part of capitalism, but the cold hard part of capitalism. But when you have an asset that is generating wealth, that is, that they can see has got growth potential, they would be more willing to work with us. And again, we have the listing we're working on right now. There's going to be other ones, right? After this one, that we're going to be getting into. So we do have a path forward. But just like with anything, things are just a lot easier to do. Some things are a lot easier to accomplish in a bull market if you're the one or one of the ones leading that bull market. So yeah, it's something that would definitely give us more options. However, it doesn't mean that a bear market doesn't give us other options and other avenues that would not be available during a bull market, because those avenues would kind of be absorbed to cover the bandwidth of the main thing that's making everybody money and running the hype of what's going on. So I mean that's my take on things. Okay, and here's we already covered exchanges, but I just wanted to let you guys know that yes, Chiron Labs is still our market maker. They're doing a fantastic job, and they're also actually very good at helping us bring in new people into the ecosystem, new projects into the ecosystem. I've been talking to them. I've spoken to a couple of pretty significant projects about coming into the Ergo ecosystem, utilizing Ergo. So still, the relationship is really good, great firm, and we're really grateful for their help and to be working with them. Okay, so Joe, I know this has been asked, but it's nothing wrong with kind of answering it again once in a while. How big is the developer team behind the Ergo platform?
Sure. Well, you have to understand, number one, that we are a open source and really a community-driven ecosystem. So I think the last time I saw the number in terms of community developers that had come in and out, interacted, it was above 250 that had at least touched Ergo. Now, some of these people have, a life, they have a job, they're not necessarily here full time. Now, the core team in and of itself, we have, I would say, roughly about 15 to 20 that are all specialized. And that's kind of the focus, is rather than having a, let's call it a corporate management style where you have, one person kind of, dominating the development path. We tend to have small specialized teams that are in constant contact with each other, and I would say that's probably a part of what makes us more lightweight and efficient for such a small team. But beyond that core, let's say, tooling and protocol support, we have a great group of community developers, and in this last year, what I've seen is more engagement, more EIPs being pushed by actual community developers, and ultimately I think that's the path that we need to follow. I'm really excited to watch that continue and potentially accelerate over the next couple of years, because ultimately it opens like a debate about what are the best features, what are the best ways to build it, and that collective mind share makes us stronger.
Absolutely. So we have we have a question that again has popped up a couple of times, and it has been answered, but I guess this is also something that we can touch on. So the question is, how do we overcome not having VC investment to fully grow into a top 50 crypto? Well, I'll tackle that one first. And again, this is something that's already been answered here, and I'm just kind of going to reiterate it. Bitcoin didn't have VCs, and Bitcoin is still Bitcoin. Ergo is the spiritual successor to Bitcoin. We can do it too. you don't need VC investment to fully grow into what you're destined to become as far as an ecosystem. You need to have a strong ecosystem. Yeah, an injection of any kind of capital into the ecosystem will charge parts of the ecosystem, but with any kind of VC involvement. And I'm not the kind of guy who thinks all VCs are evil. They're not. Okay, there's responsible VCs out there. There are vicious ones. Just like with humans. There are good people, there are bad people out there. Do we need to have it? No, we don't. Would an injection from a VC, injection of capital, say $100 million, right? Somebody injects $100 million into the ecosystem for projects to develop on Ergo and whatever. That would accelerate projects developing on Ergo, but that would also highly centralize the I guess you could call it the authority of the network, right? So the influence, and that's not good. That's not good for a decentralized ecosystem. That's an inorganic growth, and we have seen what has happened to a lot of the VC chains that did get this injection of capital and kept getting these injections of capital when it just wasn't working, right? So they just kept, it was like they were just like, juicing up the defibrillator, just like, clear. And the thing would just pop up and like, oh, look, it's alive. Nope, it's not alive. Okay, let's hit it again. In the end, it's not going to work. In the end, you can't money bullshit your way out of organic growth. You just can't. And just going back to what's been said, Bitcoin did it. We have the fundamentals, the roots, the technology, the mentality of that particular of Bitcoin, I believe. And I'm not the only one. I mean, I'm sure you guys saw what Charles said during the Austin meetup. He says that this is what Bitcoin felt like because he was there when Bitcoin just got started. So he knows. Other people said that as well. And there's a reason for that. The reason is because this community is organic. This community is grassroots organic. There is no artificial pumping going on in the community. And that is our strength. It takes longer to develop. It's a longer runway. But once you take off higher than most who have all the VC capital to use for whatever. So that's just my take on things. What's your take on this, Joe?
Money can only buy you so much in life, is what I would say. If I look at the quality and commitment, a lot of the open source developers that are attracted into our ecosystem, I take one of them to 10 of anybody else, to be honest. And plus, I do think that when you get into the VC side, often what you see is very heavy marketing where it's like you're selling the stars, but you're building a little step ladder. Mm-hmm. There's just nothing there ultimately that is going to deliver the promise. And so I think for the Ergo ecosystem, how do we grow into a top 50 crypto? We focus on having core principles, building functionality that simply outcompetes everybody else in terms of the transparency, the ease of use, and the flexibility of our ecosystem. We just outcompete. Now, how do we do that? We build things the right way. Because if we build things the right way, they'll last. And not only will they last, but being open source, you'll hit a certain point where all of these frameworks can be carried into the future, used, improved, versus when you have someone pay a private development firm millions of dollars to build something that's closed source. What's the lifespan of that beyond a certain market cycle? Nothing, because nobody can reuse the code even.
Right. So I mean, again, you hit your nail right on the head. It's just all about, it's and I know some people are like, oh, he's talking about fundamentals, and he's talking about principles and blah 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 blah. Oh, when am I get 100x? It pumps and dumps. I mean, that's what happens to that kind of thinking. Screw everything else. I just want it to pump. What goes up will go down. Okay, but if you want consistency, if you want sustainability, what Joe just said is how you get it. Because we're not here to be gone in 2 to 3 years. Okay, I mean, look, if you guys have been in the blockchain and the crypto ecosystem long enough, you've seen chains come and go. You've seen really big chains come, and I mean, some of them didn't go, but they're kind of like, are these guys still around? You're just like, you look them up. Like, well, what about these guys? They raised like several $billions. Are they still around? And you see, I mean, yeah, they're still around, but it's kind of like nothing is happening. You don't want to be one of these guys. You want to be one of these guys that, people were saying that, oh, these guys are taking too long to develop their tooling. These guys are emphasizing too much on their fundamentals. These guys are not thinking about their investors, which I also kind of, tell you the truth. I mean, I can see why somebody would feel that they're an investor when they're holding a crypto, but it's not. It's not really. I do not accept the traditional definition of an investor when it comes to holding crypto. When you're holding a crypto, you're not an investor. You are more of like a citizen of an ecosystem, right? Because then you can participate in the ecosystem if you're holding that particular coin or token. So to me, it's more, and this is something actually the Cardano whale said before, it's more of a citizenship than an investment. So you're not an investor, you're a citizen. And if you build an infrastructure for your blockchain whatever ecosystem country, or I mean, I don't want to make it sound like too cultish, but you know what I mean. If you build infrastructure, it will be around, it will survive, and that is how you gain prolonged sustainability, and that's what it's all about. So let's take maybe one more question. What do you think, Joe?
Sounds good to me.
All right, so let's see. Well, how about you pick one, Joe?
Sure. Let me scroll through, see what's popular.
Well, actually, I think, what, I see one from Mr. Wombat over there that might be pretty cool. What do you think?
Yeah, call it up. I don't see it yet, but
all right. So let's CW asks, what are Ergo's potential scaling solutions, and how would one project utilize one option over another?
Sure. Well, it depends what their actual goal is. So you have a variety of potential options to scale or increase throughput. Like GetBlock has chosen Plasma for their pool. Why? Because they want transparent on-chain data to be more compressed. And if it's more compressed, they have the ability to have more data on-chain, which allows them to scale their mining pools and improve their payouts. You may have something like roll-up solutions where, the goal is to take many different transactions and basically compress them into a single proof. And so you're trying to essentially get throughput rather than more be driven by data transparency. So you have to kind of ask the question, okay, well, what's their end goal here and why? And I think there are going to be different solutions that make sense in different places. Now that, I hope, if we're sitting here like a year, 2 years from now, we develop kind of like a community cookbook where you have all of these different projects that have implemented different scaling solutions for different reasons. And we get together kind of the open source guide of not just the how these things are implemented, but also the why. Why would someone choose Plasma versus ZK rollup? Or what are the trade-offs? What are the benefits? Because there is really not a one-size-fits-all solution that I've seen in this space. It's more of specific implementations that are tailored to specific needs.
And you know what? This childhood association I still have. Every time somebody says ZK rollups, I think of fruit rollups.
What's your favorite flavor of fruit rollup, Dan?
Cherry.
Cherry.
Yeah, I like cherry. Are fruit rollups still a thing?
I don't know. I haven't looked in a long time.
Yeah,
I'll see.
Well, maybe Ergo can add that to our marketing platform. The Ergo brand ZK fruit rollups.
Okay, we'll do it.
That's it. That's my whole marketing strategy, guys. Okay, we're gonna release a line of candies called the Ergo ZK fruit rollups. That's it. It's gonna be huge. It's gonna be huge. All right, guys. Well, I think this is a good place to leave it off. A really kind of a semi-awkward place, but a good place nonetheless. Thanks a lot for joining us. And again, we're going to be doing this every Thursday now, same time, same channel. So yeah, we will see you next week, and you all have a good drinking Friday, like me, or that never mind. I shouldn't say that anyway.
Be well, everybody. Have a good week.
All right. Thanks, guys.